she can get a better picture.
Oh,
Oh, I don't feel like
maybe that's what she's trying to see in her head.
Actually, it's high enough, it goes right over everybody anyway.
Are they cute?
Oh, those are comfortable.
Yeah. They got them for $10 or like $50 too. They
I
got
don't care about looks. I have a pair of my very favorite pair of sandals, turns out they're all
Just
the
out of the
same.
line of fire.
Yeah.
Got
You
no
wouldn't
sense
know
of
if I didn't tell you that boy
Actually, I wasn't, I told you that, got that.
Yeah, right, you saw those big clompers coming in, you heard them.
Called me in the morning, tried to
Maybe you
figure
could.
it out, so.
And so Mr. Ware,
Curious
why
to
are
see
you
how
not
that-
going to the mayor's job?
I have a better answer.
She's surprised I am. Well, hopefully it'll be in the morning. His wife does have a bill, but
So were
she
you,
could probably
why are
drive
you
there
here?
herself, you know, so.
No, I just said I would take.
You know how it is sometimes, you gotta think of why she said these things.
She's smarter.
There's there, people better,
And what about you?
that sort of thing. I take, my wife goes with me to my eye appointments down in the Golden Lake area. And they dilate my eyes and she says, you want me to go home? And I said,
This is where they
I'll
work.
do it.
Well, I know that,
I
but
got these shades I can handle the job.
I'm gonna be
And she says, so it's like that traffic down there. So,
I don't know. Independently, I think about it sometimes, and never ever thought seriously.
I wish you would think seriously about it. Maybe your emails like bombard you.
Should be.
Administering. I'm not.
Bombard you.
Yeah,
I mean, I've been
I've always been an
supervisor.
executive officer. Never had to manage.
I've been supervisor and then secretary.
Where's Mr. Casey tonight?
He is sick. She has quadrupled the number of
Litigation, sidewalk litigation.
No, I really, but I will get started. Now she's tired.
I think I understand.
That's good.
This doesn't show everything. I think I understand the whole concept of absorbing the excess rate. That's not gonna happen that often, but you have to address it.
Calling the City of Gold Council meeting for Tuesday, September, bring to order, please stand for the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to note that all four council people are here tonight, and John Light and the staff, Denise Beeston will be here, I expect shortly. And then Chief Casey was out sick today, so he is not here. So we have a revised agenda that you just saw right now. I had a couple of things I was going to cover in the mayor's report, but the discussion might be a little long, so I added them on. One thing I added, and then Lehodo wanted to talk about additional netting for the water system. So put that on as additional item. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
No second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you. Okay, I'll go to the mayor's report. Working on a comprehensive plan grant. Our comprehensive plan is due next year. And there's a $10,000 grant waiting for us if we fill in the paperwork. And so I've got the paperwork filled. John's gonna look at it. It's due the 30th.
And that grant coverage?
Whatever we need to cover it for. Note that Denise Beeston is now arriving. $10,000 toward the comprehensive plan, and I'm assuming we will spend all $10,000 on a consultant. Because you need someone who who knows all the tricks and stuff. We're still gonna have to have a lot of citizen work on it, council work on it, because $10,000 does not buy you a lot of a consultant. So, anyway, so I've got a tentative plan. As soon as John gets it, I'll distribute it to the council. Yes, ma'am.
What are we consulting?
This is the comprehensive plan that cities and counties have to do. It's sort of the plan for your next 20 years or 10 years or something like this. How are you going to expand, what projects you're going to build, and so forth and so on. Like with any governmental thing, there are a whole bunch of rules and ways you have to do it, and certain words you have to use, and sequences, and that, and the other. And that's where you bring the consultant in, because they are familiar with that. And let's see, well, this is gonna come up with a citizen question, so I'll leave it. Okay, so that's the end of the mayor's report. Denise, you got a staff report?
Utility bills will be sent out on Friday the 6th. I always like to remind people to check your usage. That's one of the first ways you're gonna see that you have a leak is by your usage. If you pay attention to that throughout the year, and you're normally a 5,000 gallon kind of person and you haven't done anything differently, and all of a sudden your usage starts to go up, you may want to check for leaks. Also had several calls on dogs lately, missing and or running at large. I'd like to remind people to always have ID on your dog, whether that be a license, just a name tag with a phone number, microchip in your dog, and always have a photo of your dog. It's really hard for me to describe when somebody says they have let's say a poodle chow mix, and I don't know I know what that looks like, but you may not know what that looks like. So always having some sort of picture of your dog for identification is good.
John?
Yeah, this Friday, the Washington Survey and Rating Bureau will be out at the Bull Bar, looking over the water system and the fire department. I got about an 8-page report that I got on my desk today that needs to be done by Friday. And, it explains the water system, all the pumps, all the telemetry and all that sort of stuff. And hopefully, after they survey the system in the fire department, we can hopefully drop our fire rating to lower one, which will be a benefit to the citizens in their pocketbook.
I think ours is lower than Sultan already, so. So they're doing this for fire insurance rating purposes, right?
That's part of it, yes.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do the council comments. We'll start with Councilman Hodo.
I have no comment.
Strong.
I have no comment.
Martin.
I have.
Okay.
I went to a meeting today in Sultan, which is the working name for it is Boomtown, which always makes me think of fireworks, but that's another issue. And it's assessing the Sky Valley, our strengths and our weaknesses. And the lady who's kind of running this program today, we talked about what we have to offer, our different hotels, our different restaurants, all the different attractions and businesses that we have here to make the valley a good place to live and work. And the same person is going to be at the Sky Valley Chamber of Commerce meeting tomorrow at noon at the Sultan City Hall. So if anybody would like to go to that, she's really, really, really good to listen to.
Isn't our U.S. rep going to be there with Tim, was it?
Dilbenny
Dilbenny, yeah.
was going to visit Sultan, and was that today or was it
I
tomorrow?
thought it was tomorrow at 10. I'll have to go to David again.
Because because they were talking about Dale Denny's visit.
Okay.
But it's something that I'd really like to see us be involved in, because it's not just Sultan, you know, and I don't think Sultan should be the focus. It's Sultan, it's Gold Bar, it's Index, it's Skycomish, it's the whole bit.
Okay, a conserve visit has to do with the recreation area. We've got the, what do you call it, innovative partnership zone thing going, which is Everett to the pass. And it's beginning to gel together. Next stage is to get the private sector involved more than they are. So all of these things are working on the same area. I hope they sort of coordinate.
Right. So it's something that I think is really, really going to be important to the valley.
Good.
And to our whole economic well-being.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I had the privilege to attend the AWC budget courses or seminars, and it was really, I was in Leavenworth, and it was 2 days. I did only Thursday, which was a full day. Friday was a half a day, it was one session, but I didn't attend that one. But I did attend Thursday, the full day, attended several sessions. And it was very good, and especially in the afternoon. We had choices for one session in the morning and choices for one session in the afternoon. And I don't remember what the alternatives were, but the one in the afternoon, we went through different budget types. And we went through basically what we do is, I don't think they ever listed a vendor budget type, but we did that last year. It's not a bad thing, but they did a priority one, and that's the one actually that stuck in my mind as being the most interesting, because we've talked about what are the priorities within our government, within our city government, our local government, as to what are, one of the first things, I'm fumbling around here a little bit, but the first thing they did was establish a mission statement, which I don't know that, I remember when Crystal Hill was the mayor here, going to one of the planning meetings where they attempted to do a mission statement. Whether that ever came to fruition or not, I'm not certain.
We had one hanging on the wall.
Yeah. So the mission statement is an important thing for identifying where we want to go, and then our budget should be subservient to that mission statement. And the things we do need to be subservient. That way we have a direction and we're consistent about where we're going with our government and what we wanted to accomplish. And that's why the priority type budget was important to me, because even though that's not one of the ones they recommended highly, it was kind of like at the end of the line, and it was like an elite kind of budget and not one that's commonly used. But it stuck in my mind as important because we talk about roads, we talk about water, we talk about fire protection, we talk about lots of things, and what the mayor has said consistently is that health and safety for the community is our priority. Our budget should reflect that. And if that is our priority, then our budget should reflect that. So it was a good session for me. I really enjoyed myself, and I learned quite a bit, and that's good. And then the other aspect of community, I guess, this weekend I had the opportunity to go to the fair on Saturday with my wife. Typically, we don't make it to the Evergreen State Fair because it falls during blueberry season, and we have a blueberry farm, and we're generally open to the public up through Labor Day. This year we ran out of blueberries about a week and a half before Labor Day. She walked through the patch, and didn't find anything. So the birds had come in early, and we don't mind sharing, so we don't care. But and it doesn't make us much money anyway. But so we had the opportunity to go. I went. It was a great time, and I even caught Chief Casey cleaning up his cow path behind his cows. That was kind of entertaining. But so we said hello and went on. But yeah, I had a good time there too. So That's it.
The priority thing I think is particularly important for 2014, so, as your finance person anyway, I think you probably need to take the point on, starting, we've done it, typically we've done line item budgets, and the discussions about what does this line item mean, and some of this, and some of that, some of the other. For example, we write checks to about 100 different entities, and we have 500 to 800 line items that we spread that out on. So, and then this last year, we did it by vendor, so we knew, hey, what are you spending the money on?
Yeah.
Which is more practical, but doesn't fit the
Right.
state auditor's Barnes manual. So, and I think the priority thing is something that's gotta be looked at, so, you've seen 3 different styles now, so.
Yeah, and actually for me, the line item budget is, I like the line item budget. I think it's a very strong budgeting tool, and especially for managing your budget. And I mentioned that over and over again when I was in the class, and they got tired of hearing me, so they didn't call on me very well. But that's the one I think where you can actually, they have what they call a performance budget as well, and maybe they like that better. And some bigger entities, there were a lot of county commissioners in the class, and so these bigger entities probably would prefer a performance budget over, they didn't necessarily like line items so much because they have so much detail in them. But at some point, it always comes back to line item, and that's where you really manage where you're spending money. And so I like that budget as well. So between the priority budget and the line item budget, those are the two. I think I would use a priority for establishing your budget and then the line item for managing it. That's our position here, and that's what I like.
Okay.
So I should also mention the fact that we haven't done any vouchers for at least the last meeting, I think the last 2, and then
That's
this
this
one.
meeting, the previous meeting,
Yeah.
and there'll be a bunch of them for the next meeting.
That's right. And the reason that's important is because my wife and I have scheduled a vacation beginning the 1st of October, so we're gonna miss the first meeting of October,
Okay.
and we're gonna request excusal from that. And we'll be gone, I'm not certain if we missed the second one, we're gone October 1 through 14, or 15.
Okay. Let's see what October is, 1 to 15, yeah, that's 2 meetings. The thing about it, the back vouchers will be here on the 17th.
Okay.
So we'll clear the vouchers on the 17th.
All right. And we have a hard time finding sufficient people for the finance committee, so during my absence in October, we probably need another councilman to
Yeah, Bob's filled in for you. Okay, got that covered.
Okay.
Thank you. It's time for citizen comments for non-agenda items. Mr. Coleman, what do you have to say?
Ray Coleman, 203 19th Street. I got a few items. One, we have a new piece of graffiti on 19th Street at 19th and Aaron. I believe Denise is smiling about it already. It's some of this paint that they use for like marking utilities and whatnot, the kind of bright in 2 different colors. And it stretches from that wall to me, and it says, "No expletive tweakers, we will shoot you," and it has a few exclamation marks in there, and it's all surrounded by what you call it. And I got Rocky Walker on the hook, and he's gonna perhaps show up in the morning with his portable rig, because there's no water or electricity in that area there. So, and I'm gonna invite Mr. Tolman to come along and witness the operation of that, because it'd be nice to see if we couldn't get him to have the availability of driving that rig up here if we can't get a hold of Rocky. And as you know, he used his own equipment for cleaning the flag this last time, all right? And since our chief isn't here, I believe our report has more vehicle problems in it recently. And in my neighborhood, I've got a couple of people that have noticed people, like one guy on a bike, one guy on foot, backpack, and didn't do anything in that area because he shoot him off. But also down on Aaron, Earl Sobolewski, who isn't on any email at all. He was home, his garage door was open, and somebody came in and stole a drill motor, all right? Then I believe the same individual came back later and was poking around in his garage, and he says, "What are you doing in here?" So I'm looking for a piece of plastic to put over my backpack, you know, so. And I saw some guy riding a bicycle with a backpack and carrying 2 green bags, and I believe he had a weed whacker stretched across the handlebars of his bike. Can you believe that? So, the volunteers coordinators meeting that happened today had Perel Lewis at it. I wasn't there, I'm not one of the coordinators. And there'll be perhaps a 2-minute spot this Friday and Saturday on Western's Most Wanted. You know, that's on QHQ 13, which comes out on Channel 10 a lot. You might be looking for that.
What's gonna be on the most wanted? What is?
That, Perella Lewis is gonna present these volunteer coordinators and some of their activities, notably the Project Care Track. Okay, and this is the old Project Lifesavers, and they have, I think, 3 of their people that use that. They brought them in. One of them was a 21-year-old Down syndrome type that was there with his mother. This will be perhaps kind of interesting. So, and also while we're in the public safety booth at the fair, had a chance to meet the executives inclusion manager. This is somebody that was hired by Reardon back in January, and I got an interesting article in the Snohomish Times on her, and a lot of it is about diversity training and that sort of thing. So, Julie Puderman is her name.
So you need to send Julie up there at 19th and Aaron and talk to him
About the expletive
about, well, you know,
tweakers.
diversity, I suppose. Okay, thank you, Red. Have any other comments? Going once, going twice? Okay, we will move on to.
We've had,
Yes,
in Terrence Pope at 326 8th Street,
okay,
8th and Linda, actually. We've had, between Terry Hope, she's on the other end of Linda Street. We've had young adults come through, and they like to sit on my wooden fence out there right at the point of my lot. Like to sit on that, and I wish they wouldn't sit on it, because it's not it's just kind of block and logs laying across there, and they tend to knock it down. I haven't seen any vandalism. I've chased them off, called 911 twice now. And I've chased them off. And the moment I report it on 911, I watch it. They disperse, you know, before they even, the police get out there. So I don't know how they know I called. But they seem to know. So it's just, I haven't seen it. They're young adults, and they got, some of them got backpacks on them. One of them leads a couple of dogs around a leash.
2 Tyrants,
Yeah,
Yeah.
two light,
a mom and a pup.
Yeah, he had 3 people sleeping in his flower
yeah.
bed.
And they were
They were
down
chasing
from me,
them.
say, there's kind of a lot, and on my lot, it comes to a point there on 8th and Lynch. There's got a lot of trees in there, and I've since cut out, because the neighbor, he said, he leaves early in the morning, you know. He saw some young kids with sleeping bags in that tree area.
Garden.
Tree area there, so I cut out the lower part of the trees so you can see through there. And I don't normally see through there except when I'm in the kitchen, I can see out there. Because I got from the kitchen, normally my living room back there, so I hardly ever look. So that's a report I found out from a neighbor.
yeah, one of
And
the,
I've seen them, you know, sitting on the fence or congregating there in the street. since we've been looking at it, and I've cut out, they haven't showed up very much.
They're congregating now down on the corner of Timberlane and Evergreen Way.
Yeah.
I've actually called the cops because I'm watching drug deals go on now down on my corner. And
Yeah, they probably just moved
Yeah, that's the thing, they moved.
somewhere else.
Yeah, basically what we did is we cleaned out the area on our street, so there is absolutely nowhere to hide. Because all the bushes and all the brush is cut down.
We've got a vacant
So,
house, and at
yeah.
night, the only street light is the one right on Evergreen Way.
Right,
So there's nothing around the corner of our house on Timberlane, there's no lights, that house is vacant. Going
Perfect
down
spot.
further on Evergreen Way, it's all dark.
Is there a
So
PUD pole, on
there's a
Timberline?
PUD pole on, I'm not sure on Evergreen Way until that further down, and there is a light on that one.
What about closer to your,
Close
closer
my
to
place.
Timberlane? and
No,
there?
it's just right there on Evergreen Way.
Okay.
But Saturday, or I believe it was Sunday morning, I was getting ready to go to the car show. Came out, was moving my vehicles around, and an individual drove up in a, I wanna say it's a gold kind of beat up car, honked the horn a couple of times. The individual rode up on his bicycle, did something through the window, the bicyclist rode off, and I continued to watch him and move my vehicles and let him know that I was watching, and he then moved and went down the block. But it's increasing, it's just, they're just moving, where
right.
people aren't
And I
watching.
think that the reason why they've been moving is because we, as neighbors, have pretty much congregated down on them and said, not on this street.
Yeah, and
We're
they're,
gonna call 911,
yeah,
we're watching you, so.
yeah.
they-
And we try to, as you know, when somebody's parked down on our street, you will get
Yeah.
confronted by my
People.
husband coming up and
Yep.
asking you what you're doing.
Yep, we're
Um,
doing the
I
same
haven't
thing.
gone out and approached them,
Yeah,
You don't know.
unfortunately, they, you know,
'cause I
the
don't
houses
trust
that are
them.
there, they all work,
By the way, we got him,
Good
but,
idea.
Dan Cleveland.
yeah, it has been increasing, so.
Well, amen on that one.
If I see them, I'll report it to
Yeah.
911.
911 always, I mean, anybody that walks in here and tells me they have car files, I ask them, do you call 911? Well, no, well,
We do though.
then I
All
guess
of
it
us do.
isn't really, you know, a crime. If you're not willing to call 911, it takes 2 seconds to just call 911 and say, you know, non-emergency or emergency, and just report it. And give a phone number, you know, it's the best way to do it.
I've only seen one response from them, that's
Yeah.
the first time I
But it's
called.
still
They come out
reporting
there,
it
and
because
like
of
I
the-
said, they disappeared, and you called them back. you know,
Reporting
and
it, I mean,
I said, as soon
Ray,
as
you
I
get those,
reported, they
right?
disappeared.
the
They
911
were
calls.
there.
Do I get the 911 calls?
Yeah, I mean, as far as tracking.
Calls for service.
The Petraeus rule for locking down someplace, that sort of stuff doesn't happen, is you need one set of boots on the ground for every 50 people, which means we would need 40 deputies to shut it down. We have 4, plus the sergeant. So, you know, you're not
That's
gonna
one at a
have
time, too.
instant response to everything.
Right.
It is
Again,
important, though,
the
that you call.
exposure, when those people, they know you're watching, they'll move to a quieter place. And, I'm not sure how much good security cameras will do, but security cameras with a big sign say, you know, 24/7 security camera notice. I need to go talk to the guy at the end of 3rd Street. He's got one of those signs. I need to go find out how effective he thinks it is. But
One
again,
of the
the
things
exposure.
that Sergeant Casey was saying is if they have video evidence like that, it helps them out a
Oh,
lot.
sure.
Yeah.
Again, it's gotta be good enough. Yes, sir.
You all bring up a good bunch of points, and he's talking about crime prevention through environmental design, that's
Yes, that's
important.
correct.
And she's talking about describing things, and she should be keeping a journal and putting down license numbers and dates and times, and I don't know if she is or not.
I called
All right.
911 and I'm
Well,
taking
anyway,
photos.
the journal's still important,
Yeah.
because sometimes, not always does this information get back to our chief, you know. We have our online reports, and they don't technically get back to them sometimes, so. And another thing is that if you don't call 911, it's a crime that never happened in the deputy's eyes. Even if they can't get out there, police-wise, they know where it is, you know, so they can maybe concentrate on that in the future.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, are we done now? Okay, we'll go to the first item on the agenda, and let me pull up the first thing, and Stillwater is here. Pull this up. Took a look, we got released last week, I guess it was, for finishing up the stuff on the sidewalk project that didn't get done. It should be September 3rd, not the 2nd. And so I've been taking a look at this for a while, and one of the problems there is the slope is possibly too steep, and on heavy rain days, there is excess drainage down into the house area. And so I proposed a solution to level out the driveway so that the runoff doesn't go down. We'll probably counter slope it a little bit so it runs up against here, and then put a what's called a low impact design area here, which would be extra absorption of the rainfall. So we take out 4 feet or so of the area that, instead of collecting the rain and running off, it just simply goes into the soil. And this way, the driveway does absorb a lot, and if super heavy rainfalls, it would probably bundle up against the blocking here. And I did far enough to get a quote and see how much it would take, and this is what we talked about back in April. So that's fine. Bobby wishes to make a comment, but first, if the council have any particular comments?
Well, I'm not a civil engineer, I'm not a hydrologist, but it appears to me as if you're fighting a losing battle against the water. Because that house is lower, no matter how you collect that water, it's eventually gonna end up running in that direction.
It will from here on out, for sure.
Well, even if you collect it back there under the new topsoil, and it goes down, when it hits the bottom there, it's gonna seep out underneath into the driveway. And if you collect enough in the driveway, it's gonna run over and run down the house.
Oh, yeah, but that's when you got this old guy with a big boat going by. I mean, we had 2 times when he got this, and one was it rained 1 inch in 24 hours, I believe, and the other 1/4 inch in 1 hour. And a 1/4 inch one, we were flooded out here and flooded over at Evergreen and several other places. So we're not gonna, the catastrophic type, it's probably not gonna be handled on that. So, but it's gonna be better than what it is now. Will it be perfect under every condition? Probably not.
So my question is, how much better for amount of money you're gonna spend?
I have a gravel driveway, and it's flat, and water sits there and then it goes down. I've never had a flood. I've had, there's some low spots in my driveway, and the low spots fill up with water, and then an hour after it's rained, they're gone, because the soil we have here. This here would be, I don't, it would have to be a really terrible storm for it to get so much water that you had 2 feet of standing water inside dirt. I mean, I've never had that happen. And I've got something like this in my house.
It'll seep down,
It'll seep down.
but when it seeps down to where it can come out underneath those ties, it's seep come out.
No, it keeps going down. With the soil we got here, we've got what typically they call type 1 soil.
Right.
And go straight down.
It is pretty sandy, and it does go pretty deep.
Sandy with cobbles and rocks.
It's really good.
A lot of the river rock.
We all are.
I was up there this afternoon and looked at that, and I agree with Ken. I don't think that this is a solution for it. I've had a lot of these runoff problems. I think the only, number one, I don't know if it's the city's responsibility or not. Did the city cause this problem to start with?
The DOT, this is the DOT design, and they said they didn't see it to be a problem. Bobby has reported problems twice, and so, and we talked about it, and I felt it's worth a solution. It's easier to do this than to argue about it.
Well, if it is a city problem, I mean, it's on the utility right of way or easement.
Yes.
And the biggest part of this is on the easement problem. And
The easement goes, you see this
it goes
utility
back to the
pole
power
here,
poles.
and it comes back to the next power pole, which
Yeah.
comes about like this.
So in order to fix it, I believe, you'd have to start out at the curb, and level that ground, and make a funnel in there and put in a driveway. In other words, you have to dig a hole, put in an old manhole with holes in it,
I have no
and
idea.
funnel the grade into it that you're looking at. And that would eliminate any water back as far as the edge of the driveway. Then the driveway would have to take care of itself. But this, you're looking at, in order to do it that way, and you're doing most of that work on easement property.
All of it on easement property, pretty much.
And so it's an expensive situation, so if the city did cause this problem,
I'm not admitting that the city caused the problem, we have watched it. It's like our stormwater ordinance. It says on extraordinary events, then, you can't have water run off your property except on extraordinary events. That's even the way the Department of Ecology has. They have what they call the 1% rule. It's like the 100-year flood.
yeah.
In that there are certain times it rains so much that tough is going to get beat. Yes,
But
ma'am.
the,
Oh, go ahead.
but
Please, excuse me,
Finish.
just for one moment, please.
but we
It
have
is,
time for citizens' comments. Why don't you do
This
it?
is
Wait,
extremely
we-
important that I speak this right now. There are a few people in this room that I just chatted with that agree with me. I don't want my picture taken, sir. It's against the law to take my picture without my permission.
Not in a public meeting, unfortunately. So do not take her picture if you would, please.
So, point of order, I would like to agree with Lee. I mean, this is a point where the council speaks first. And then,
Okay, well, it was something that was going on, okay.
And pardon me, I didn't mean to
Okay,
do that, but
all right.
But anyway, I think if it is a city's problem, the city has to repair it, it's gonna be pretty expensive.
Well,
And
again,
if it's
I'm
not
not saying it's a city problem.
I think it'd be, I talked to Bob this afternoon about it,
Okay,
and I told him what I thought would fix the problem.
okay.
And that is what I think will definitely fix the problem, but I know the city would have to be responsible for it in the first place, and it would cost probably $6,000–7,000 to do it that way. So
Okay,
that's my
so
comment on
You're
that.
saying putting a regular drain in like we have in the parking lots and such. And for the record, that 2/4 of an inch rain in the hour, all of the drains we had a lot of them were flooded. It did not stop that flood, okay, because it was an extraordinary event. There was water sitting out into the street, there was water sitting out at the parking lot of the school, there was water over the curb on Evergreen Way. So even though those had exactly what you said, they are not magic, they have a drain rate also,
Yeah.
and we've been fighting May Creek Road for a long time. So it's not a magic thing. What this does have on there, that works quite well, all the drains on the street side funnel to the gully there, by Culver Bridge. And we've got the swales in there, and that works quite well, because that'll handle a large amount of water.
But is that what was there before the sidewalk was put in?
That was put in
Was
as
there a
part,
big ditch?
that was put in as part of the two-way left turn lane, the Culver Bridge retake. That was where that swale was put in. And when we put the sidewalk in, we had the option of filling that swale in and putting full drainage pipes in versus utilizing the swale. There's a $65,000 difference between putting the drain pipes in and utilizing the swale, so we utilized the swale.
Yeah. Well, that's my comments on it anyway.
Okay. And, and the DOT looked at it, and they said, no, there's nothing wrong with it as is. Now, let's go back up here. There's also another thing here. The this is what's called a pervious surface. And you can see right here, it's covered with impervious items. And when we had one of the big rains, I went and looked, and underneath the vehicles, the soil was dry. So that part was not being utilized. And that was basically close to doubling the load on the existing, on the rest of it.
How long would this be? How long are you going from the pizza place?
Oh, no, the pizza place has got its own internal drain.
No, I mean, are you going from their property, from that property, from the,
Is there a plan
Highway.
view of how,
Oh,
where this
yeah,
thing is
there's
gonna
some
sit?
plan
I was wondering how long this is gonna
Yeah,
be.
exactly, me too.
How far down the road is that?
Okay, let me pull this up. The area, well, this is before the sidewalk is put in, we don't have a current one. And this is one parcel, this is another parcel, and this is the Stillwater parcel. And there is a safety section here, I'm not sure exactly where it sits. But we're doing this all in the easement out here, so there's not anyone, it's DOT property, okay, whatever we do. We're not going up against Rico's property, we're not going up against Stillwater's property, we're going within DOT property, okay? So we come out here, and it looked to me like you would need to take it to about the edge of the house here, because this is where the big slope is, and then it flattens out here. So we're talking about running from here to here. I'm not sure what footage that is.
You're talking about building this fill here.
Yeah. Put the retainer wall, either a berm or a retainer wall in.
I like your solution.
I just hate to spend $3,000-4,000 there and like Ken said, have it and not be a solution. But that, to me, that, they're in a bad situation there. They're several feet below the highway.
Yeah,
And they're several feet below the easement.
yeah.
So you're gonna have to fill up that ground all the way back up to the easement level.
No.
And,
Why would you fill it all the way up to the easement
well,
level?
that way in the ground, the water wouldn't be running down those driveways. But
What are you talking about?
I just can't see where this is gonna be a city problem. Here, where all these vehicles are parked,
Yeah,
is a PUD easement,
no, it's DOT, it's the Department of Transportation.
Department of Transportation.
Mhm.
So all the work that you're talking about doing here would be on that easement?
Yes, and the city, once the road is in, the city has the responsibility for maintaining anything outside the curbs. Okay?
Well, I don't know. I disagree with you, but that's, I'm just one person.
Okay. Davey, you have a,
I have a comment.
yeah, I'm letting Davey finish, and then you're up.
I
There's a whiteboard
just
for you.
am wondering if we can, and I know that consultants are spending. I'm just wondering if the DOT or somebody can give us some input on this. Have we had other input than just our city input?
We had Jake Sharp, who's a landscaper and who is building a low-impact development system for his new building, come in and do the analysis.
Okay.
I made some, I had a comment, and then he went in and did the full analysis.
Okay. So we've had some professional input on this.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, yeah, some level. And I can probably get an opinion from the DOT on this.
Well,
It'd be an informal
For
decision.
giggles and grins, why don't we talk to the DOT?
Okay,
I mean, it's,
I'll have to chase it. I think, I don't know if Schuer resigns, but it'll be short.
okay,
I'll do some chasing.
okay. Since we seem to have a pretty wide range of opinions as far as solutions, what they have
Okay.
to say.
I'm trying to get Sam before he goes. All right, Bobby, you got a plan?
Yes, this picture here doesn't show any part of the problem at all. What the problem is from here, right here.
Okay,
How thick is that curb?
how thick is the curb?
Yes, how thick is the sidewalk
I
and
think
the
it's
curb?
6 inches.
6 inches. Before, this whole lot here
Mm-hmm.
was at that level, at highway level. Okay? Now, when they came in and did the sidewalk, they raised all of this up.
Yes,
Back here where this truck is sitting, they raised this up, dropped right here where this fence is now, they dropped the angle. So everything is funneled right back down my driveway. It doesn't matter if these cars are there or not.
it does matter, but to what
It doesn't matter, if you take a piece of wood and you put water on it, if you put dirt on this side or this side, and you take that board and go like that, which way is the water gonna go?
It's not a board, it's gravel, it's pervious surface.
Regardless, that is the issue, is the grade.
And not disagreeing with you on that.
Now, if the grade was brought up throughout here, and like he was talking about, and a drain was put in right there, that'd be the end of it. My driveway down below would be able to sustain,
How you can get from the raised grade to your driveway?
it's very, he's only gotta raise this part and this part right here. Once he puts that drain in, all the water goes right to
Yeah,
that.
but now you've
Instead
got-
of
that
acting
second
as a
raise is
river,
about a foot.
it's a foot.
Okay, now you got a foot gap between where your driveway, so you're gonna have
You
to,
round it down. And like Kim and I were discussing, at that point in time, then I can go down and put another drain lower if it becomes to where this doesn't take care of it. And there's, no matter what we do, I'm gonna have water in the driveway.
yeah,
Before this was done, I had that much water coming through the fence from Rico's Pizza,
yeah,
which you were a witness to, you came over and seen.
yeah. How much do you have coming to the fence now?
Now, none, because it was, his driveway and everything was redone and re-sloped.
Yeah,
And it was dug down. Now, I have all the water coming from here. So we got rid of one problem and created another one.
we also took all the sheet water off US 2 and stopped that from going down there too, so.
But that's, Russell was saying that the reason he was getting so much water is because of this hole right over here.
Yep,
Semis, cars, bicycles, whatever, hitting it and pushing it all right down his driveway.
and DOT fixed that.
Okay, but now, this has created the problem.
So you said something earlier, I want clarification. They raised most of that.
They raised from here out to about right there.
Okay, I have no issue with that. They raised that.
Mhm.
Then you said they dropped. I don't think they dropped.
Back here, yes, they did.
Did they scrape?
Yes, they dug a great big thing out so you can have a divider, a brick divider in between our properties.
That was out in the right of way.
That's not in the right of way. That is not in the right of way, it's right on our property line.
in the right of way. It's in the right of way.
Our property stake is in the right of way?
No, that pad is out in front in the right of way.
What pad are we talking
The
about?
one you just mentioned, the big concrete safety pad?
No, I'm not talking about that, I'm talking about the
What are you talking
brick
about?
wall that's in his lot. Okay? All that sloped back this way, towards my driveway.
Yeah, what I asked, did they change the slope?
Yes. Yes, they did.
They made a fill there, but,
Mhm.
between the sidewalk and where the slope of the driveway is, they filled in,
Yes.
So we understand the fill part. It's the part
That
where
used
you
to
said
be a
they
ditch?
dropped.
Yes. Well, it's not a ditch, it was you could drive over it.
But they actually removed material.
They removed material, yes.
Okay.
right below there is a big swale, you know, which handles runoff water. But I noticed that over at Rico's, the pizza place, they redid their parking lot there, and I noticed that they do have a swale on there so they can control their own water. So the
He has
water,
a drain, he has a graded drain,
yeah,
like you're talking about.
right.
Excuse
So
me.
the only problem there is now is where those vehicles are parked. Where you're talking about building this
Yeah.
thing, so this would be what, about 50 feet?
I don't think it could be.
And then what, 2 feet thick? 2 feet deep?
About 2 feet deep, yeah, because once you brought the driveway level, you'd be in the neighborhood of a foot or two, somewhere 18 inches, 2 feet low.
So then, and then this, how far is it from the sidewalk over to the,
We're looking at about 4 feet.
about 4 feet? Well, that would absorb a lot of water, but you'd still have, I think Bob would still have a big problem with the water coming, because that whole thing slopes that way, and if it's a big water problem, it's all gonna go down there to his house.
Unless water rolls uphill, it's not going to do that.
So, I mean, those places are so far below the
Well, he's
street.
always gonna have a problem because his is low, okay? I mean, that's it. But we're saying, within the right of way, we can make, I think this will make it not contribute to the problem.
I don't think that coming through here and putting that in is just another effective way of keeping me from parking up there.
That's not your parking lot.
You know, we've had this argument, I don't know how many times, if you're gonna do that to me, then you gotta tell Ricos that they can't park out there either.
I don't,
Rico's does not park in the right of way.
They
There are
don't,
no
I
parking
don't.
spaces in the right of way.
okay,
Okay,
We're
but
the only.
that's
I
not
wanna
true.
take a side for a minute.
Okay.
Based on what Lee was talking. If they actually remove material,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I understood they filled. If they
Okay.
actually remove material, we created the problem. Therefore, it is our problem and we need.
We inherited when we closed out, it's actually the contractor E-Corp's problem, but we inherited it.
Right.
If it is a problem,
Yeah.
which DOT did not agree to. They did not agree it was a problem. Now, haven't gone back and pressured.
But it's definitely a problem.
You think so?
It's a problem, sure, the water fills up down there in their house, goes underneath.
Well, that's a problem, yes, but that's not the question. It's the contribution to the problem and the solution to it.
Well, I think the dry well would be a solution.
It would be a solution, yeah.
I will agree with that as well.
Okay, so you would,
Put a French drain along.
are you saying add fill to it so that the driveway is flat across?
If you
No,
put, if you
Lee's
put a
looked at
French
it.
drain in.
I'm gonna go with whatever it was that Lee recommended. He's looked at it. I think, I trust his judgment.
What did you recommend in specific? Do we add material, do we take away material?
We'd have to add a little bit of material, but not much. We dig a hole, about in the middle of this area where the cars are parked. And then we take that
I
material
don't
and make a
understand how
field
that
with
much
it
water
over
right on my front doorstep
towards
is
the
a
house.
problem.
And then, which would make that
During
thing
normal
a foot
rainfall.
higher, which
Well, I
is
said we're
gonna
having two conversations, let me finish this conversation.
which is gonna make his driveway quite a bit steeper.
Yeah,
But then, all the
That's what
water
happens, I have
that
it.
runs from the sidewalk to his house will be going into the driveway. It'll be graded so that,
yeah, understand. So you're saying come in with a cut-in section,
yeah, with the driveway.
with it raised up, where we basically raise, basically we take here and we extend this out to here, okay? So this is about a 1 to 2 foot fill. Okay, so it's level.
No, we won't make a fill there at all. We'll make a cut there, we'll make a fill over towards this property. So that everything slopes from where you got, from the sidewalk.
Okay, right now, This goes from here to the corner of the sidewalk. That's the existing,
Yeah,
not the skeleton, not that right angle, but that goes from here to here. So what are you talking about doing?
the dry well would go about right in here.
Yeah, I know where the dry well, but I'm saying,
Okay.
what's the slope?
Okay, you take the material from the dry well and bring it over here, so this material, so the water hits here,
Okay.
goes back into here. The water that hit here goes
Okay,
into here.
So you're saying.
It's all funnels right into that
Okay,
one hole.
So you're saying, you build it up here, watch my arrow, you build it up here, to here, to here, you make a V, a shallow V,
Right. Yeah.
okay. And this is,
Except it's not a V, it'll be a funnel. The whole thing will slope in, back into
well,
the
that's,
ground.
that's a V,
Two-dimensional is V,
Right.
on a three-dimensional it's,
Yeah,
the funnel, yeah,
it'll be a funnel.
okay.
In other words, the funnel, the top of the drain would be about 6 inches lower than where the car is parked. And you'd have to take that material and bring it over here, so that would be 6 inches higher than the drain.